Can I pass over to Tracy?
Hi, Foreign Secretary. Moving on to Gaza, with another 20 civilians killed today, how are you working with international partners to improve aid access in Gaza and to end the violence at the distribution centres?
Is this a good point to refer you? I hesitate because I'm not sure the chairs, but it's just that this is a moving situation. It's abominable, frankly, let's be clear. And so I thought, let's look at the up-to-date picture.
Treading into that territory, so tread lightly.
Well, I tread lightly, but you'll see in slide 1 that and this is pertinent to the committee's work, that Palestinian civilians have been pushed into less than 15% currently of the territory in the Gaza Strip, and that's the white areas on the map which demonstrate that. At this point in time, almost 2.1 million people have been displaced, now multiple times, and that effectively the new aid system has 4 distribution points, when we think there should be 400 distribution points, and that horrendously and unbelievably we have children queuing for food at those distribution points and being killed. It's hard to describe that as anything other than unconscionable. At the same time, we have trucks waiting at borders. There were some World Food Programme trucks able to get in a few days ago, and I know that Kaja Kallas and the European Union have brokered a deal for more trucks to go in, but the advice I received as of yesterday was that no extra trucks have gone in. Now, what we have been able to do is get our medical aid in, and you know we've given a lot to UK Med particularly, to support people on the ground. But the situation is dire. It continues to be dire. That's why we continue to press for a ceasefire, and we continue to press for unfettered aid to get in.
Can I ask you, how certain are you that no UK bombs and bullets are injuring aid workers and civilians while they're queuing for aid?
I'm very certain. And I'm very certain because I took the decision to suspend arms sales to Gaza back in September. That is a decision that is reviewed by me every 2 months. The instruction then goes to the Business and Trade Secretary, and we are not sending arms to Israel.
Foreign Secretary, can I ask, what is your response to the Israeli Defence Minister's recent proposal for a humanitarian city?
Well, I condemn
Rafah, and the language
I
that is used
condemn
around
them,
that?
and I note that Yair Lapid, former leader Olmert, also condemned them in the strongest of terms. And it's my understanding that Prime Minister Netanyahu also disassociated himself from them on returning from Washington a few days ago. But no defence minister should be talking about effectively holding people unable to leave, presumably, in the manner in which he described. And I condemn them in the strongest terms.
Gaza is a slightly bigger version of what he's proposing. Gaza is a slightly bigger version of what he's proposing. People can't.
Well, that's why I thought that this map would be
withheld.
helpful, because if you are effectively holding people in 15% of the territory,
exactly,
they've been displaced many times, sewage, sanitation, medical situation, starvation and malnutrition is rampant, then I think that that's unconscionable. And I think that the global community are looking at Israel and they are saying to the government, how could you possibly allow this to happen? And I support members of our own public who are calling this out, and we continue to call this out. That's why the Prime Minister led a leader's statement. I led a Foreign Secretary statement a few weeks ago. We had 27 countries that supported it to get the aid back in. All of us were hoping for a ceasefire at this point, and I think we're hugely disappointed that we had not achieved it. Aid remains an issue. The duration of the ceasefire remains an issue. And relocation of Israeli forces during the ceasefire is also an issue between the Israeli government and Hamas at this time that has not led us to a place where we've got that ceasefire.
Foreign Secretary, as you said, you've been a politician for 26 years. You're politically one of the most powerful people in this country. I think your reputation internationally is strong, so you're internationally you're a very powerful person. And I just wonder, so I sit here chairing this committee, hearing the evidence firsthand. The committee's been as close as we can get to take firsthand testimony, and I feel utterly useless when it comes to this. And I just wonder, how do you feel? And is there anything else that you wish that you could do that's within your power that you're not doing right now? And how do we get to a point where this slaughter stops?
I think that I've been in power or in the government a year. There hasn't been a day in which I haven't in some shape or form reformed to this most horrendous of conflicts. And of course I wish as the country's chief diplomat that we had a ceasefire that I have been calling for well over a year. All I can stand by is my record and the Prime Minister's record on this most horrendous of conflicts. When we came into office, there was no funding going to UNRWA. We restored that funding. When we came into office, there was no suspension of arms. When we came into office, and sadly it still continues to this day, beyond Gaza there was horrendous settler violence. We have sanctioned those. There have been horrendous statements in relation to that by Ministers Smodrick and Ben Conveer. We have sanctioned them. We have increased aid to the occupied territories at this time, and I have visited on numerous occasions. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with the Palestinian Authority. Prime Minister Mustafa was in my office discussing these issues and sat with the Prime Minister in number 10 looking at these issues. We continue to support the Palestinian Authority on their reform agenda. Our most senior individual, probably of the last 25 years on delivery, Michael Barber, is working hand in hand with them. But have we brought this conflict to an end? It saddens me greatly that we have not, as an international community, been able to bring this conflict to an end. And does it make me, I'm getting emotional talking to you, as the father of 3 children, looking at the images that all of us see on our social media of children maimed and killed. Of course it affects me. I'm a human being. But in the end, it is the work diplomatically, to try and bring this conflict to an end that I have to be part of. Can the UK do that unilaterally? No, we cannot. Have we got to do that with partners? Yes, we can. And we continue to lead and work with partners as you saw a few weeks ago. But is it desperately frustrating? Of course it's frustrating. Is it unconscionable? Yes, it's unconscionable. Is it an abomination? Of course it's an abomination. The ceasefire needs to happen. The aid needs to get in. The hostages need to get out. We have been saying that time after time after time. And it's reprehensible, some of the language that we're seeing from senior politicians in Israel, like Minister Katz.
Thank you. I've got Monica, then Tracy, you want to come back on this? Then Sam, then Tracy, then James on this particular point.
Foreign Secretary, you made the point that I was going to make, that the public are watching and they want the British government to do something, and I appreciate what's been done already, but they want you to do more. Now, there are things you could do. You've sanctioned Ben Gvir and Smotrich. You could sanction Katz, who's advocated for the aid blockade and for the 20 new settlements in the APT. It is not true to say that UK weapons are not going into Israel. Components of F-35s are. So at what point do we stop that? And when are you going to recognise a Palestinian state? There is more that can be done.
On your first point, you know that I can't comment on sanctions that are under consideration, but you have heard my statements about what has been said by Minister Katz, and you will have heard my statements previously about Ministers Smotrich and Ben Gvir, and then the subsequent decision that I took. That's the first issue. On the issue of recognition, this is an important issue. We believe in this country, and I think it's a cross-party position, to stand up for two states. The Palestinian cause is a just cause, and it is important that we recognise. The question is when and how. And of course I recognise that that's a subject of debate and discussion, and we are working, of course, with our French and Saudi Arabian partners. They were going to have a conference. It did not take place because of the 12-day war with Iran. That conference, I understand, is to be reconvened on the 28th of July, but it's not yet at the leaders' level, and they're indicating that will be delayed in September. But of course we continue to work with them. Ms. Harding, I suspect that you stand by the work that our country has to do in relation to conflict in other theatres in the world. I suspect you would not want us to send direct parts for F-35s to Israel, and we are not doing that. But I also think that you would not want us to not participate in the supply pool to the whole F-35 programme across the world. There are partners, particularly in Europe, that we would not want to undermine, and it's for that reason that we made that decision, and I'm pleased that that was upheld by the courts just a few weeks ago.
That's it for 4 questions.
You mentioned the children of Gaza a moment ago, and recently I, along with some other MPs, met with a British plastic surgeon who just returned from there. He showed us video footage and images that I'm afraid I will never forget of the suffering of Gaza's children. As you know, tens of thousands are orphans, and many of them are dying because they're not able to receive medical treatment. To date, just 2 children have entered the UK for medical treatment. And I understand that there are complexities around this, but I know that I would be happy to take a Palestinian child into my home. I'd be happy to help fund their treatment, but we're not able to without the power of the state behind it. Is there not more that we can do for the children of Gaza?
Well, we have supported the Hope charity and initiative to bring children to the UK. I am happy to do more if those requests come in, and the UK is obviously doing a tremendous amount in situ with UK Med. There have been 500,000 consultations delivered as a result of British taxpayers in situ since January 2024. You'll remember there was the most horrendous outbreak of polio, and we sponsored the polio vaccination scheme again in country, and we've helped just under 500,000 people to receive essential healthcare in country. I don't want to suggest that with hospitals bombed and lots of aid not able to get in, that people aren't experiencing real medical emergency second by second, minute by minute in Gaza. But we are doing a lot in the medical space, particularly, and will continue to. And if there are more children that we can work with Hope and others to bring in, of course we will do that.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary. Just reflecting on some of the things that you were saying, I don't think any of us would doubt your passion to try and resolve these issues. We went up to Scotland just the day actually that foreign aid changes were announced, and we met a Palestinian aid worker up there employed by Oxfam. And she told us that when it came to FCDO diplomacy, lots of warm words, lots of hard-working people, but she felt like the FCDO has lost its confidence and lost its clout in light of Afghanistan and I guess the legacy of Iraq and Brexit. Is that a view that you would